Good Monday evening, Chicago. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about tonight. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Thank you so much for taking time out of your week to talk about some sports with us tonight. As always, I'm your host, Adam Karnick. Boy, that Bears game yesterday, boy, that was something. The Packers absolutely took it to them. But despite all that, they make the playoffs anyway. Thanks to Kyler Murray getting hurt for the Cardinals and the help of a former Alliance of American Football quarterback on the Rams, the Bears back their way into the playoffs. How are they going to do? How are they going to fare? I'm not sure, but to help us figure it out, Sean Hammond is going to stop on by again and help us break down just what these playoffs are going to look like for the Bears. How far might they go? How might they win games? How might they lose games? We'll try to break it all down for you. And then, after that, I have had something festering in the back of my mind ever since it came down last week while we were on the air. The Cubs traded Yu Darvish. I'm not happy with what they got in return. I'm not happy with the direction that the franchise is going. I'm not really happy with the way MLB has been going for the last few years. I'm going to vent some of my frustrations on them later on tonight too. And then the NCAA. If you've been listening the last couple of weeks, you know I have a wonderful love-hate relationship with the NCAA. We're going to talk about that some more with the college football playoff and news of how March Madness is going to go this year. All that and more here on Chi-Town Weekly. Everybody buckle up. Let's go. And once again, thank you for tuning in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Again, my name is Adam Karnick. Thank you for taking time out of your week, whether you're listening live or later on as a podcast, to talk about Chicago sports with us tonight. Let's get some of the homework out of the way first. Ways to follow along with the network and with the show. Of course, you can hop on Twitter. You can follow IE Sports at IE Sports Radio at Twitter. You can also follow along on Instagram at IE Sports Radio. Facebook is search IE Sports Radio. Or you can just go to our website where we've got all the shows and blog posts and merchandise. That's iesportsradio.com. Then, ways you can interact with the show. The show has a new Twitter handle. Long story short, we had to get a new one. It is at IESRC, IE Sports Radio Chicago. That's at IESRC at Twitter. Or you can follow along my personal account at Adam_Karnick. And then here at IE Sports Radio, we are very happy to have sponsoring us this week, Legacy Financial. It's been a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, call 951-732-0130 or 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and Ao are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. You can follow them social media, Twitter at legacy_uncut, or on Instagram at Sims_uncut. That is Legacy Financial. All right. So let's talk about that Bears game yesterday. Obviously, that was not the way anybody wanted to get into the playoffs, but here they are. And to help us break down both the Packers game yesterday and the upcoming playoffs, Sean Hammond of Shaw Media is here to help us out. Sean is a beat reporter for covering the Bears for Shaw Media, and you can follow him at Twitter at Sean_Hammond. Sean, thank you so much for hopping on once again this season as we try to figure out just what these Bears are.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for having me. I always appreciate jumping on with.
So let's start with the game yesterday. obviously the Packers were clearly the better team. You know, I thought the offense overall had the right game plan of going out there and controlling the clock, running the ball, just drawing the game out, limiting the number of possessions they had, and holding onto the football as long as possible. They just didn't score touchdowns. Why did they have to settle for field goals in the red zone as often as they did?
Yes, that's exactly it, and that's really what they've been doing this last month or so is controlling the possession and controlling the tempo of the game a little bit. And a lot of people have mentioned this on social media and whatnot, but they won the time of possession by more than 10 minutes. They ran a bunch more plays than the Packers, and still they're losing the game by 3 possessions. And I think if the Bears had an answer to that, they'd be in shape. Why aren't they scoring touchdowns? They went to the red zone a bunch of times and only scored 1 touchdown yesterday. It's just it's hard to put a finger on it. You look at Matt Nagy said after the game, you can't kick field goals and beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but at the same time you're the guy doing it, so why not go for it on 4th and goal from the 2-yard line in a situation like that? I don't know. Didn't really give a good answer for why they didn't go in that situation. And they kept it close into the 4th quarter, but as the final score kind of indicates, this game was not as close as maybe it felt there with 12 minutes to go. Yeah,
and on the one hand, they went for it on 4th down a lot. They were 5 of 6 on 4th. I can't remember the last time the Bears went for it on 4th down 6 times. I can't remember a time when any NFL team went for it 6 times on 4th down, yet in the red zone they're settling for field goals. And what felt to me like the biggest letdown was the 4th and 1, where it was 4th and less than 1 in the 4th quarter, and they decided not only to throw the ball but to put Trubisky in the shotgun so that you knew it was going to be a pass play. I mean, as soon as they lined up, I thought, I do not like this play call one bit, and it fell on their faces. Did Nagy give a good explanation of why not only to throw it there, but to telegraph it so obviously that it was going to be a pass?
All he really said was that the defender made a nice play. They liked what they had. The defender made a nice play. And while that may be true, it's that, there's a reason that a lot of fans are upset about that play call. And you got to look back too at the 3rd and 1 play just before that. They handed off to David Montgomery, and he can't get 1 yard. So essentially, you're talking about 2 plays here, 2 plays to get 1 yard, and they can't do it. I think Mitch said after the game, something to the effect of, that's what the play was. So that's what he did, and that's not exactly a endorsement for the play call in that situation, but that was a really frustrating point in the game because, you get that first down, you get a touchdown there, you take the lead. And I know the Bears, if you watch that game, you saw the Mitch Trubisky sneak it a couple of times on the short yard situations. You saw David Montgomery run for first downs on short yard situations. I know they were doing that a lot, and you want to keep the defense honest and mix it up, but man, why not just put the ball in David Montgomery's hands? He's been so good the last month. I don't know why you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, or it's less than a yard. Mitch is a very mobile quarterback and an able quarterback. Just put him under center and fall forward for the little bit of space that you need. You don't have to get super cute on that 4th and 1 call.
I have no problem with doing that. Even though they did it a couple of times earlier in the game, it worked both times. So why not do it a 3rd time? So what?
Yeah. Make the Packers prove to you that they can stop it before just assuming, they know that's coming, therefore therefore we shouldn't do it again. We'll catch them thinking. But I could go on that play for a little while. But there was other stuff that happened in the game. On the other side of the field, the Bears defense just had absolutely no answers for Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers didn't throw an incompletion until his receiver dropped a touchdown pass in the third quarter. Why was Aaron Rodgers able to have such great success yesterday?
Yeah, it's funny because Aaron Rodgers' first incompletion might have been his best throw of the game, but it's the same old story. I mean, it's the same thing we saw a month or so ago when they played the first time. Rodgers. There's a reason Aaron Rodgers is probably the MVP award this season. I mean, it's just so impressive to watch. It's so impressive to see the way he picks the matchups he wants, and he's able to get guys into favorable situations. It didn't help that Roquan Smith left the game in the first quarter with an elbow injury. That's a serious disadvantage for this Bears defense because he's been so good, and he's one of their best players, period. You saw that in one of the touchdowns he threw to the tight end. They were going after 55, Josh Woods, who came in for Smith, and there was just a miscommunication on that play, and the Packers wanted the touchdown. And you saw Rodgers picking on him a little bit throughout the game, and that's what a good quarterback's going to do when one of his opponent's top players goes down with. And there was that other big pass. 72-yard touchdown. Danny Trevathan, Chuck Pagano brought the blitz, and Danny Trevathan just got beat. And that's going to happen, but you just can't have that.
Yeah, that was a play. I kind of had to smile after that one because for weeks, the fans especially have been screaming, why doesn't he blitz more? Why doesn't Pagano blitz more? Pagano's got to blitz. Pagano's got to blitz. And Rodgers, you could tell before that play, he just, the corner's about to blitz. That means there's going to be a linebacker covering a receiver. Let's see which one. There he is. Boom. And you just could tell before the ball was even thrown, Rodgers had it dialed in who to pick on that play. I as much as I hated to see it, I had to chuckle because it was, you got what you wanted. You got the blitz. This is a quarterback that can kill you with it, though.
And at a certain point, as much as Bears fans don't like to hear this about Rodgers, you got to admire the guy a little bit, just the way that he's able to do this time and time again. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we hate it because he plays for that team up north, but he is an amazing quarterback. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You brought up the Roquan Smith injury. Darnell Mooney also got injured in that game yesterday. Do we have any idea on will they be able to play this Sunday against the Saints in a playoff game?
Yeah, so we talked to Matt Nagy today on Monday, a little bit before noon, and we didn't really get much of an update. The Bears have been really, really tight-lipped with injuries this year. So we honestly, we don't know anything more about Roquan Smith or Darnell Mooney and their situations. We probably won't know much of anything until Wednesday when the first injury report comes out this week. And at that, we probably won't even know much more than whether or not they practice. But it's hard to know. Obviously, there are two really key components. I mentioned how important Smith is for the defense. Darnell Mooney's been awesome. He's clearly the number 2 receiver, and he can go out there and make a play even on some of these short passes that Mitch Trubisky is throwing. So the Bears really could use him this week against New Orleans, and it's tough to see him go down with the ankle injury. He was limping off the field there, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see here.
Yeah. All right, so despite the loss, the Bears still back into the playoffs at 8-8. This is a playoff team thanks to the addition of the 7 seed this year in both conferences. So the Bears now, they make the playoffs for the second time in 3 years under Nagy. and they go down to New Orleans. It's a rematch from earlier in the season. What kind of a chance do the Bears have in this game? Obviously, you've got a fighter's chance at least because it's the NFL and you're in. But do they have anything more than that?
Well, you certainly have a fighter's chance, and the fact that this Bears team hung around with them into overtime in November with Nick Foles, a statue at quarterback, I think that's a good sign. That you were able to play with these guys earlier in the season, and a lot changed since then. I certainly am giving the Bears a chance. I'm not necessarily saying I would go out and bet on it, but they've done some nice things the last month or so. They've really improved offensively, and I think the question is going to be, I should say there's going to be a few questions with this game. Alvin Kamara is kind of a question mark. We don't know what his situation is. He's on the COVID list right now, although he could be back as early as Sunday. Obviously, that's a huge situation, and the Bears' injury situation is just as important on their side. But, Drew Brees played well this past week. He was out there for a few weeks with the rib injury and a lung injury of some sort, and I think he was a little bit slow there getting back into it, but he looked good this past week, so that doesn't bode well, especially for a Bears defense that will occasionally give up a lot of passing yards.
Yeah, and so you mentioned not wanting to bet on it. I looked at the odds earlier today. The Bears are actually 9.5-point underdogs in this game. They are of the wild card matchups. The Bears are the team Vegas likes the least. Even 7-9 Washington is only an 8-point underdog against Tampa Bay. The Bears are 9.5-point dogs heading into New Orleans. So for me, we talked about Roquan and Darnell Mooney, but there were some other huge names still on the injury list. Do we have any idea for guys like Buster Screen or Deion Bush or Jalen Johnson or some of those other injury guys? Do we have any idea if any of them might be able to go, or is it just wait until Wednesday?
Well, we've heard Nagy said today that Jalen Johnson is day-to-day, which, is a little bit promising, but that's not really anything different than what he's been saying the last couple of weeks. But I do think, if Johnson's injury was bad enough that he wasn't going to play, they would have put him on IR a few weeks ago. So I think there's still some hope for him to come back. I don't really know what the situation is with Buster Screen. Obviously, when a guy's out a month with a concussion, that's never a good sign. And Deion Bush is another guy who we don't really know much more than what they tell us on the injury reports here. So I would say, we've kind of been in this holding pattern with those three guys, just sort of wait and see. And I would say it's the same thing this week. I would be cautiously optimistic that maybe Jalen Johnson could get back. But at this point, it's just too early to really say.
All right. And then one last question here, Sean, and then I'll let you go. We saw over the last month the Bears play a style of offense that, while it wasn't necessarily what Nagy likes to run or wants to run, they were able to run with a lot of success, albeit against some very, very terrible defenses. If they stick with this style of offense, is this something that you think we can see possibly win a playoff game with?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. What was the last part of your question?
So with this style of offense, where it's very, very defined reads for Mitch and very simplistic short passes, get it out of his hands very quickly, trust your run game, is this a style of offense that can translate into success in the postseason?
I would say this. It can, but it's always going to depend on matchups. Going up against the number 2 seed in the NFC North is not a favorable matchup for the Bears here. If they were to, let's say they had done this earlier and found some success and worked their way up to, a 4 seed, even a 5 seed or something, maybe they could be in a more favorable situation here with the matchup. I don't want to say that they can't win a game like this, because they can. They certainly can, and they were, they had a chance to go down and score a touchdown and take a lead against Green Bay this week. So it's doable, it's possible, but you almost have to play a perfect game. You can't have those mistakes. You can't have interceptions from Trubisky, and you can't have breakdowns, because that's what really costs you when you're playing this style of game and you're controlling the possession and the time of possession. One big mistake can really hurt you. We saw that in that loss against Detroit. We saw how much those interceptions hurt the first time they played the Packers. So I would say, yes, the Bears can win like this. They can win a playoff game. I have no problem saying that, but you got to play nearly a perfect game. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against the Saints. And I'd be especially concerned if Roquan Smith is out on that defensive side.
Yeah, that defense is banged up enough as it is to be losing one of its best players in Roquan Smith would definitely not make it easier, especially if Alvin Kamara is out there too. Well, Sean, thank you again so much for taking time tonight to break down the Bears with us, and hopefully we will be able to talk again soon and talk about an extended postseason run.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Again, that's Sean Hammond of Shaw Media. You can follow him on Twitter at Sean Hammond. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and then coming out of that, I have had something festering in the back of my head ever since the news of the Yu Darvish trade came down last week, and tonight is the night. So I got to get it off my chest, and I hope you're able to help me with it. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Down! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Wanted to once again thank you, Sean Hammond, for hopping on and talking about the Bears in that last segment. Also, I missed a little bit of kudos that I wanted to hand out before talking to Sean there. Before I came on tonight, the Kansas City Shuffle was on before us tonight. Dave does an outstanding job with that, and Dave and Pesquire both do a great job of talking primarily about the Chiefs, but tonight, since the Chiefs are off this week, they broke down the AFC side of the playoff bracket, so you definitely want to check that out if you missed it. They do an outstanding job there. And then also, as always, on Monday nights coming up after us, it's Let's Whine About Sports with Mike Pat. Mike talks about kind of all things sports. He's going to be breaking down the entire NFL postseason picture, and he's going to be drinking some Australian red wine. You definitely do not want to miss that. That is a really cool, unique show that he does. And then later on tonight, 8:30 Central Time, The Unfiltered Truth with Phil Jones and Phil Robinson. They're going to be breaking down what the offseason is going to be looking like for the Las Vegas Raiders. So lots of great content on IE Sports Radio tonight and all throughout the week. You do not want to miss it. Of course, NFL playoffs, and of course, other sports too. Taryn Rodriguez, who's in the chat, he's going to be breaking down some volleyball on Set Point later this week. He mentioned that Big Ten women's volleyball starts here in just a couple of weeks, so you definitely want to check that out. And of course, listen to the promos, listen to the drops. There's always great content here for you on IE Sports Radio. So, last week as we were on the air, there were all the talks of the Yu Darvish trade going down with the Cubs. And I brought it up that, part of the reason the Cubs are looking at making this move is because they haven't been able to get a satisfactory return for Chris Bryant. Everybody's been making them offers, and basically they're not liking anything that they're hearing. So that means, maybe Yu Darvish will bring in a better haul. All right, I can kind of get behind that. I can kind of understand that. He's a 34-year-old Cy Young finalist, but okay, if you're going to make a move, you better get something good in return, so you got to give up something to get something. Okay, I can make that. And sure enough, while we're on the air, the trade goes down. Well, now we've been able to see what the Cubs got back. Without any offense intended to any of the players involved or any of the people involved in making the moves, how dare the Cubs try to tell us that this was about winning in 2021? This was nothing but a cash drop. Pure and simple. They got $59 million off their books by trading Yu Darvish. That's all this trade accomplished. Remember, Yu Darvish was a Cy Young finalist last year. He was unequivocally the ace of the staff and somebody that is a well-liked teammate, somebody that was going to help you win what is a very weak National League Central in 2021. They got from the Padres in return starting pitcher Zach Davies and then 3 teenagers and a 20-year-old. Reginald Precario, Owen Casey, Ismael Mena, and Yeson Santana. Between those 4 guys, only one of them has actually played any professional baseball here in the States. An October in Arizona Fall League. That is it. You have no idea what you got for this in return for not only the best pitcher on your staff a year ago, one of the best pitchers in the game a year ago. I want to give new president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on this move. I don't think this was Hoyer's call. I think this came from the Ricketts family. And I want to preface this, obviously, I don't know the Ricketts. I don't know Jed Hoyer. They wouldn't know me from anybody else if I were to come across them at Wrigley Field or in Wrigleyville or wherever. If I were to bump into them, they wouldn't know me from anybody else on the street. So I don't know them. So I can't say this with any knowledge or forethought. But this just feels so cheap. This just feels like the Ricketts family has spent all this money on buying up the area all around Wrigley Field and putting in condominiums and putting in their hotel and putting in restaurants and putting in all these things that will allow them to make money that they won't necessarily need to share with the players. And I'll get into that here in a second. That they can then just pocket and turn the Wrigley Field experience into going to Disney World or going to Six Flags or going, fill in the blank amusement park where, welcome to Wrigleyville. Oh, you want a chicken sandwich? Oh, that's $15. Oh, chicken is, it's the old Jerry Seinfeld skit about talking about the airports. Oh, you want a tuna sandwich? That'll be $50. Tuna is very rare here. Oh, welcome to Wrigleyville. Oh, you want a shirt? Oh, that'll be $75. Yes, we have to import them. Oh, you want a chicken sandwich? Oh, yeah, we had to bring in the chickens, from Brazil or something and charge $300 for you. You can't bring anything else. You're stuck here. And this creating this amusement park atmosphere around Wrigley Field, and then the pandemic hits, and we're not going to be able to make the hand over fist dollars like we thought we would. We better quick just cut payroll so that we can make money off somewhere else because we're not going to make it in the places that we thought. So we have to cut costs. Oh, we've got a good player here. Get rid of him. He's too expensive. And I know that obviously no one saw the pandemic coming, but their business plan was obviously just so set up around having butts in the seats that they can't absorb the cost of being a competitive baseball team. That it's now not worth it to be competitive because then we have to pay people. And it's just so frustrating. These are the Cubs. And again, I should preface it. The Ricketts have spent a ton of money on players. You look at the Jason Hayward contract. You look at the John Lester deal. You look at when the time was right, they spent money on players. Going and getting Ben Zobrist, getting John Lester and Jason Hayward, as I mentioned. They're still in their window. You still have Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant and Javier Baez under control because they didn't trade those guys off. You're still in your championship window. I'll admit, this is the final year of a champion. This is probably the final year of a championship window. But you look at the rest of the division, nobody is trying to win the National League Central. The Brewers are selling off people. The Reds are selling off people. The Cardinals aren't going to be competitive. This is going to be a winnable division. And once you're in the play, maybe the Cubs won't be able to make noise. But then to also turn around and say, with this trade, we're trying to restock the farm system. The 4 guys that they got, none of them were in the top 100 prospects in baseball, mainly because nobody knows anything about them. And again, no offense to any of these players. I'm sure these are all great young kids, and I mean that sincerely. I mean that genuinely. I think that these are great young men that in the Cubs system, hopefully they're going to learn and they're going to grow and they're going to become fine young baseball players for either the Cubs to use or move. But look at the moves the Cubs have made this offseason. Didn't pick up the option on John Lester. Okay, John Lester now isn't the John Lester of 5-6 years ago when they made the deal. That was somewhat expected. They cut Albert Almora. Okay, he was probably going to be your backup center fielder. He clearly didn't pan out. Kyle Schwarber, you couldn't hit a $6 million cap figure to keep Kyle Schwarber around? Man, obviously he hasn't been what you hoped he was, but he's still been a good player. You can't keep him around? Okay. You can't trade Chris Bryant because nobody expects you to re-sign him, so they're just going to sit and wait for a year. Okay. Now you have a Cy Young Award finalist, and you can't even get... And your goal is to remain competitive this year, but to also restock the farm system, and you can't even get one guy that's in the top 100 in Major League Baseball prospects? Now, admittedly, each of these 4 guys, they slot somewhere between 10 and 20 as far as the Cubs prospects go, because the Cubs farm is that thin that you can have 18 and 19-year-old kids be in the top 10 prospects in your system. But this is embarrassing. This was an embarrassing trade by the Cubs. And this lack of willing to be competitive, it's systemic throughout baseball. If there's on the whole, I like sabermetrics. I like the sabermetrics movement. I like what these guys, what the math has brought into the game. That it's brought a new way of looking at players and looking at scoring runs and how you win baseball games. So, and it at the time, it worked to level the playing field. You were able to get teams like the A's or the Rays to be able to consistently compete with teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers that constantly throw heaps of money at their problems and just are able to buy the best players. But if there's a problem with it, it's now nobody wants to spend money. You look around baseball right now, in any given year, of the 30 teams in baseball, 20 of them are actively trying to lose. That they don't want to win because winning means you don't get as good at draft picks and you have to pay players what they're worth to come play for you. That you can get players on these young rookie deals and just pay them pennies on the dollar for what they're worth. This year, looking at it, of the 30 teams in baseball, I count 4 that are actively trying to win the World Series. Of course, the Dodgers, they're always trying to win it. Then you got the Padres, because they just obviously made the move for Yu Darvish. They also, right before that, made the move for Blake Snell, another Cy Young caliber starting pitcher. You've got the Mets, because they just got a new owner who's got tons of cash to burn, and he doesn't care. He wasn't affected by the pandemic. Yeah, I'm going to go out and try and win right now because I can. And then here in town, you've got the White Sox, which is great because then we're going to have baseball we can watch this year that's actually palatable and worth watching. But this is terrible for Major League Baseball. 4 teams, that's it? That's all you can give us that are actively trying to win. And maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe some teams will get more active in free agency here in the coming weeks. Maybe some teams will show that, yeah, no, we want to take advantage of this situation and try and win when maybe we otherwise wouldn't. But I think now the writing is on the wall that the owners are crying poor because of the pandemic. Oh, no, we all lost tons of money. You know, with the Ricketts famously, oh, our losses were biblical proportions. Then open your books and show us. Because right now, I'm sorry, it feels like it's a bunch of rich people being upset that they, instead of making billions, they only made millions. And maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will happily admit it. Again, I don't know any of these guys, so I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush here. But it really does feel like they're crying over spilled milk when it comes to this. And a lot of it's because they refuse to open their books. I know that baseball is about to have, in a little less than a year from now, that the current collective bargaining agreement is set to expire between the players' union and the ownership. I think it's going to get ugly. I think it's going to get drawn out. Right now, speaking today in January of 2021, I would not be surprised if the 2022 baseball season is either shortened or just absolutely does not happen because of a labor stoppage. It's that bad between the two sides. And if I'm the players, I know that the players are very actively opposed to the idea of a salary cap, that they just reflexively do not like it. But I think they're missing something. You know, and the argument is always, oh, the owners don't pay us as it is. Why would we want to restrict their spending even more? But I think there's something that they're missing here. And I'm going to use an example from the NFL, that a salary cap comes with a salary floor, a minimum that teams are required year in and year out to spend on players. And in the current system, baseball ownership, if you want to go out there with a payroll that is $100,000, there is nothing to stop you from doing that. And owners, more and more, in part thanks to sabermetrics, are realizing that, hey, why should I spend money? I don't need to, therefore I won't. A perfect example. About 10 years back, I'm sorry I don't have the year directly in front of me, the NFL had an odd year in its labor negotiations with its player union, and they hit a year where there was no salary cap for the first time in forever. Name the Disney song while you're at it. For the first time in forever, there was no salary cap. And the players had said for years, hey, if this salary cap goes away, we're not going to let it come back. Because they had visions of owners opening the checkbooks and the floodgates would come pouring open and money would just come racing out of it. That everybody would just be racing to spend money, that it would be an arms race to get the best players and who could pay the most. The players were drooling over it. And what happened? The owners said, hey, the salary floor disappeared. We don't have to spend a dime on players if we don't want to. So they didn't. By and large, they didn't. And Taryn in the chat room, Frozen, very good. A+ for you, Taryn. Thank you. Song reference. So the owners, by and large in the NFL, when the salary cap went away, they stopped spending money for that year. Now, there were exceptions. Jerry Jones in Dallas, of course, he spent money. Daniel Snyder in Washington, he spent money. But the other 30 owners across the NFL, they closed up shop. Why should I go spend money on free agents? I don't need to. There's nothing in the bylaws now that requires I hit any minimum salary threshold. I think we've spent enough on players, thank you very much. So if Major League Baseball players really want to force the owner's hand, and I'm all for it, there's been a lot of money that has come into baseball over the last 20 years, and it has not gone to the players. And let's face it, that's who we all sit down to watch on our televisions or pay the bucks to go to the stadium to see. We're not going to the games to watch the owners. We're not sitting on our televisions to watch the owners. We're not listening on our radios or listening on USRN to hear the owners. We're sitting down to consume the players, play the game. And by and large, the owners, by and large, have figured out that we don't need to put a competitive team out there in order to make money. And they're still making money, and they're not sharing that with the players, with the people that deserve it, with the employees that deserve it on their pay, the players, the people that deserve it the most. Now, again, and I don't want to go too far and say, oh my goodness, the players, these poor woe-begotten players, how can anybody ever possibly live on $5 million a year? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that players should, that we should all feel sorry and start GoFundMes for the MLBPA or anything like that. But at the same time, if baseball's raking in, make up a number, $1 billion annually, who would you rather see get it, the players or the owners? I'd rather see that go to the players. So I'd love to see the players institute some kind of salary cap so that it can create a salary floor and force the ownership to be more open about, here's how much money we really have. Here's how much money we bring in on a yearly basis. Here's how much we can spend on players, and just force transparency throughout baseball. That will then help force the game to be more balanced and create a more watchable and marketable product so that you can watch any given team and have an enjoyable time watching baseball. That's all we want, is we want to be able to watch and enjoy baseball, whether we have a team that we have a vested interest in or we just like the game in general. You want to be able to have an enjoyable experience as a fan. Thank you for indulging me on that very long and frustrating rant. I'm going to take a very quick break. Then we just have some nuggets and tidbits about the Bears and some other breaking news in the college game before we get out of here. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Lay down music.
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well, then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest owners. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And once again, this week we are sponsored by Legacy Financial. It's been a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, call 951-732-0130 or 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and Io are just two people on a mission to help help families build a legacy. Follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut or on Instagram at sims_uncut. That is Legacy Financial. Thank you guys for kind of indulging me on that little tangent that I went on about baseball. Like I said, I had been holding that in my back pocket ever since last week, and I just kind of had to get it off my chest. All right, before we get out of here for Let's Whine About Sports with Mike Pat, do have some notes and tidbits and nuggets for you. For the Bears, this game this Sunday is the Bears being the 7 seed. They aren't going to play any home games this playoffs. Doesn't matter how far they go. They could make it all the way to the NFC title game. They will not play at Soldier Field. This game on Sunday, which if you missed it, the kickoff is going to be 3:40 Central Time on CBS. So you have that. This is the first time that the Bears will be on a true road playoff game since the 1994 divisional playoffs, where they played against the San Francisco 49ers. So it has been 26 years since they played a road playoff game. So some history there on Sunday. Some other news for you this week here on IE Sports Radio. We've got a new show that's going to be making its debut this week. Thursday night, going to be getting into the Carolinas with Carolina Athletic Conversations with Cuddy Cutright. It's going to be 6 o'clock Eastern 6 o'clock our time, Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern here on IE Sports Radio. So definitely check that out. Get kind of a different perspective and a different take. The Panthers didn't have a great year this year, but, show them the love anyway. I hope you guys got off to a great new year and you didn't have too much to drink or go out to too many parties, but that you had fun and it was a good start for you, and hopefully we will have so much good Bears content, and I know we're going to have good Chicago sports content to talk about all of this coming year. I am really looking forward to it. Thank you guys again for taking time out of your day. Thank you, Sean Hammond, for coming in and helping us out. Thank you, Larry, for having just IE Sports in general. Thank you, Legacy Financial, for sponsoring us. Thank you, Karen, for hanging out with me in the chat. And thank you for listening. Coming up next, it's Let's Whine About Sports with Mike Pat. He's going to be drinking an Australia Red. You definitely want to check that out and learn a bit about wine while he digresses about his picks that he made for how this football season would go. That's all I got tonight. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk next time.